First of all, I'll talk about the hat that I'm wearing. You don't see me in the hats too much, but this is about everyday Canadians standing up for their country.
You remember that moment ahead of the First Minister's meeting 1 week ago today? Doug Ford with the cap, Canada is not for sale. Well, Canadians who wear their hearts on their sleeve when it comes to Donald Trump's 51st state talk are joining Ontario's Premier in wearing their hat on their heads. We're going to talk about what's happened to sales of this cap. We're going to talk about how this whole thing came about because the creators are here with me in studio, and we have Emma Cochrane and Liam Mooney, a couple in life and in business, and great to have you in our studio today. Good morning.
Good morning.
So were you watching, so it was a week ago when the Premier walked to the microphone and had that hat on and commented on, first of all, were you watching?
Yes, we were.
You saw that?
Yeah, it was pretty surreal.
Surreal, and,
yes.
and the culmination of a pretty crazy week, as I understand it, getting
Absolutely.
ready for that.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
we have to go right back to the beginning for all of this. And to do that, I have a little bit more tape. You were watching Fox News.
Yes.
Doug Ford, as he's been doing on Fox, talking about annexation and the 51st state and all the threats of that, and, you know, was making Canada's case. And then the host of the program, Jesse Waters, said this.
Because if I were a citizen of another country and I was a neighbor of the United States, I would consider it a privilege to be taken over by the United States of America. That's what everybody else in the world wants, American citizenship. For some reason, that's repellent to you Canadians. And I find that personally offensive, Premier.
Well,
You know, it's a privilege to be taken over by the United States. You're watching this, Emma, and you and Liam, what did you do?
Yeah, we heard that and we thought, actually, you know, it's a privilege to be Canadian. We like being Canadian, and it sparked this sense of, you know, we have to stand up and do something to say, no, you can't take us over.
Can you tell me your version of it, too? It struck a little patriotic chord in you. Is that what happened?
Absolutely. We thought we have to do some sort of small act of patriotism to respond to this big bluster. And so we just sprung into action doing what we know how to do. And
because you have a design company together.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly.
So busy hours, and came up with the hat idea?
Exactly. Just a couple of hats that evening, and we had a website up by around midnight, and we were putting off client work to get to that. Sorry, clients. But we were ready to go, sold our first hat that night, and it was a lot of fun.
With Shopify? Is that
Exactly.
Yes.
Amazing
put it up on
Canadian company.
Shopify,
Yeah.
like right like that, had a hat ready to go.
Exactly.
Okay, and then and the choice of hat. I mean, in discussing this, it's particularly the red one. Was it intentional to make it look like the Donald Trump MAGA hat?
It was. That hat has become iconic. Now you see a red hat and you start to wonder. And so we did choose to respond to that initially because the hat itself says something,
The hat
as well
itself
as the
does.
message on the
And then
front.
who came up with the message? Canada's not for sale.
Well, Premier Ford had made a response to something Jesse Waters had said.
Right.
And he said, you know, President Trump looks at things like a real estate tycoon. He thinks about land, and he says, well, we're not for sale. And in our conversations, we said, well, Canada's not for sale. And there we go. We had a hat.
Go. Okay, design came up, a couple of hours on Shopify, and a first sale, like quickly?
Yeah, that night, and then another one the next day, and then the day after that, we had seen that the president of Shopify had made a purchase.
No way.
And then the day after that, we could talk about it because he went on to X with a simple post and said, bought one. And it was in that moment we thought, maybe there's going to be something to this.
Then how did it end up in the Premier's attention?
We got
So-
a phone. Yeah, go ahead, Emma.
So we got a phone call from someone on his team who said
They'd seen it on Shopify?
they'd seen it. We had been covered by a local Ottawa paper.
Okay.
And so they had seen it. They said, he's going to be in town tomorrow. Can we have two? And we didn't have samples yet. We had started it, you know, just
a few days.
few days before. And so Liam spent the day running around getting a couple samples made so that we could have it to him the next day.
And you did, obviously, because we just saw it. He came striding down the hall at the end of this flurry of your activity. So now we need to jump ahead. He wears it. It's across the country. The other premiers and the prime minister, everybody commenting on his hat. What has happened in terms of sales and interest since?
Well, we've seen an explosion of sales and interest, and we're very grateful for everyone who has purchased and decided to become part of this. but it really has meant that we've had to scale up from, initially we were just doing these as kind of one-off hats. Few people were buying them, and then suddenly we have thousands of orders.
Thousands of, how many orders now?
Close
It's
to
been a week.
13,000, and that's not including bulk orders that are in the thousands of units.
People are ordering in bulk?
Yeah.
Yes. So right now it feels like we're a little bird eating a bowling ball, and but we're getting through it. We've scaled up. We have a customer service team working with us. We have a
This is all in a week, just to be clear.
Yes.
Actually, this time last week, Premier Ford still hadn't worn the hat.
Exactly. I mean, that's pretty amazing. That's head spinning, literally head
Yeah.
spinning. So, and then you broadened out because we have a couple of other slogans here. We've got strong and free in addition to Canada is not for sale. So has this become like a whole business now?
Well, strong and free was actually what we started with as kind of an initial response to that interview. And then the next day, Liam was texting me saying, we need to get a Canada's Not For Sale hat up on the site. I think that that's really going to resonate with people. And so that's the one that Ford wore, and that's the one that's taken off. But we did have this other kind of more subtle message going into it.
And are you expanding if we're talking about Canada? Is there like a toque line or anything in the
There-
making? There is
yeah.
a toque line.
Made in
There are
Canada,
two.
too.
Made in Canada too. Well, that's an interesting part of the story. I understand
Yes.
you've had some real challenges getting a made in Canada baseball cap, but you're
Yes.
working on that. The embroidery, though,
Yes.
is all
The
Canadian.
embroidery is being done in Toronto, so hats are going to ship out of Toronto. But the sort of base hat itself, we have had trouble finding supply of baseball caps that are fully manufactured in Canada.
But you've been trying to do that. Maybe you'll
Yes.
tap in. It's a new market you're exposing. There's a charitable component to all of this too.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that.
We're looking right now, canvassing for a veterans organization to share a portion of proceeds with. You know,
Why veterans?
well, they've been the ones that have been defending our sovereignty since forever, along with all Canadians. And this right now is about a response to a threat to our sovereignty and to our nation. And so we think it's most appropriate to share with them.